business is meant to be fun. If you're not having fun, either you're doing it wrong or you shouldn't be in business, period. There's always going to be things, it's called life, that you have to do that you don't want to do. We got to pay taxes, got to go to the dentist. There's always going to be things you don't want to do. So it's not about 100% of the time, all the time, but by and large, it needs to be fun. And if you're not having fun, something's got to change.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Oh man, this is a good one. I just had this incredible speaker speak at our Girlfriends in Business event, and he rocked everyone's world. You guys, James Wedmore is my guest today, but before I tell you his freaking awesome intro, I want to remind you to grab the Power 9 if you haven't yet. I've never had so many people, because I'm working really hard on getting this out there because it's changed my life, message me and say, this is changing my life. I had no idea something so quick could be this effective. So if you want the Power 9, the thing that Chris and I have been doing for the past 10, maybe 15 years, I don't even know. It's all a blur because we do it every single day of our lives. You can do it in less than 2 minutes. And I'm going to send this to you ASAP if you go and message me the word power on Instagram. So just make sure when you message me, don't write any other message. Just literally only write the word power, and I will send you our Power 9. It's a ritual you can do so easily in the morning, or you can use them as journal prompts. Okay, let's talk about James. He has over 15 years experience as an expert running a consistent 8-figure a year online business, which, you guys, that is pretty freaking incredible. He has spent the last decade teaching entrepreneurs how to launch and scale their digital businesses. I've had so many of my good friends go through his mastermind, and not just that. I think that the giants in this digital marketing world, many of them have gone through his training because he's kind of the coach's coach. And he used to be known as the YouTube guy. He made it a name for himself, teaching online experts how to leverage the power of video and YouTube marketing to reach more people, share their message, and convert more customers. And in 2016, that's when he made his focus on a big gap that's missing in the marketplace. And he really added mindset to entrepreneurship. So he launched a totally woo-woo podcast, which I love. I listen to it all the time, and I think he's freaking hilarious. It's called the Mind Your Business Podcast, and his signature program, Business by Design. And he just did his huge launch, which was absolutely banana cuckoo insane. I'm so freaking proud. And he helps coaches, experts, content creators, and authors not only to craft better marketing messages, but also how to ditch the hustle mentality. So you guys, let's get started on this podcast. James is like just this incredible, wise human being who yes, he's some of the best in the biz, but I wanted to really know how his brain works. So we kind of went all over the place, but I feel like you're going to get a really good gist of why he's able to be so successful, and you're going to be able to pick up some ways of thinking that you're going to be able to do for yourself. So let's get started. James, welcome to Earn Your Happy. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. And thanks for having me in your home.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
This
you
is
made
very
me clean
special.
this morning.
I'm sorry about that.
I got home from the gym. I'm like, oh crap, there's people coming over. I'm so excited you're here. I feel like the creepy person who's like, no, I really feel like I know you when you walked through the door. And I'm like, okay, let's not forget he doesn't know who you are, because I think most all of my friends have been through one of your courses or your masterminds, but you come up in conversation a lot in the entrepreneurial space, and not to freak you out, but it's always good.
Whew.
Yeah.
Okay. Not freaked out anymore. Yeah, that's good.
What is that? What do you think that is? Like, what have you set in your life that has said, hey, I'm going to have this incredible reputation? Like, how does that happen? How does that happen? What are the things that you live by?
Well, my first thing is we learn so much from our parents, don't we? My dad was in real estate, and I saw how hard he worked. So I learned a lot from my dad about what I wanted and what I didn't. There's a whole world to unpack of that. But he was actually like really big on reputation and class and integrity. And it was pounded into you. Like, he didn't care what we did. He's just like, But if it came to affecting his reputation, you know what I mean? As his realtor, that was big. And there's a really interesting line of like, I don't care about reputation from an ego standpoint, but I do say that there's a level of integrity. If I want to do something, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability every single time. I'm going to give that 100%. And I think what's allowed me to do that is I struggled for so long that I have a Rolodex of failures and memories and experiences that I can pull from at just about every level of this business. So I can be like, yep, I know. I remember when I was there, and I figured a lot of it, I just figured it all out myself, inevitably, the slow rate. And I just really love helping people do that a little faster than how I did it. So maybe that's what it is. But my huge emphasis is like, when you're clear on your purpose and your dharma, and that's your work to deliver to the world, that just becomes your target. And I want to help people. And this is what helped me. So I'm going to help you, and I'm going to do it the best way I can. And it must have had some people say some good things. So it's working somehow. And I'm very grateful to hear that. So thank you.
Yes. Okay. So on the other side of that, I feel like sometimes when people are high achievers, they are the people with great reputations, that sometimes there's that thing in your life that when you let it, kind of like the let's say the dark side of the really good things, like the people pleasing side, do you feel like have people pleaser tendencies? Like, what are some of the things that have made you, or that feel like a big struggle around that?
Yeah. I've done an exercise several times over my life to elicit my values. And it was very interesting to see that achievement was not on there. I don't really look at that. What is high on my values for me is growth. And I think that is the secret hack for anybody listening, is if growth, whatever personal, professional, spiritual growth, became on your top 3 values, that you can get through anything in your life, because you see that it's just there to teach you something. But achievement wasn't there for me. It was there as a huge, wonderful thing for me to uncover. And this was the thing that took me from, and this was 2013, my business was at $280,000. I was the YouTube guy. And I built this business selling courses on how to do YouTube. And all of a sudden the next year we're at 1.2 million. And people always want to know, how'd you do it? What did you do? Well, what I did, Lori, was I let go of this way of being, of needing so desperately to be liked. And everything I was doing in my business was from a need to be liked. I grew up so embarrassing, but I had no friends in high school.
I feel you. I was right with you.
I was total loser, to the point where I got booed off of the stage at my high school graduation. I know, poor pity me. So I didn't really have any friends all 4 years. And I just kind of kept to myself and developed a lot of insecurities until I discovered entrepreneurship. And you realize like, oh, I'm just different. We need to honor our differences. But those insecurities, and there's like something wrong with me, manifested in a business of, I can fabricate a character that will get people to like me. And if I get them to like me, then they'll pay me. And I cannot tell you how not true that is. The more I was getting people to like me, the more I had to be agreeable. I had to say what they already liked, and I had to be vanilla. I couldn't rock the boat. And I became more needy and more desperate, and that just repels and pushes away. And so the moment I switched from a need to be liked as the target to a desire to help, I realized I don't need you to like me in order for me to help you. And people are listening here, and on unconscious levels, a lot of people are saying, do I like this person? Do I like them? Do I resonate with them? And it's like, it doesn't really matter if you like me or not. But if I have something to say based on my experience that can be of value to you, then that's a win-win. And when I tapped into that, there was a whole nother power that got unleashed, because there wasn't that filter anymore. There wasn't a hindrance or a hesitation in what I said and how I said it, the decisions I made. And that manifests in how you offer, you make your sales, because how many of us have already equated selling as sleazy, and I don't want to be looked at as sleazy or not liked, so I won't sell. And then you're like, why is my business not making money? Well, maybe that's it. And I just more powerfully stepped into that conviction of helping people, and it just exploded the business.
Was that hard at first at all, or were you kind of just like, I'm committed to this because you couldn't live the other way anymore?
Yeah, it's going to be hard one way or the other, right?
Yeah,
and
totally.
I think it was getting hard that I felt like I was plateauing and there was something off. And once I observed it and saw it, I was able to let go quickly. I think a lot of us as human beings have a really hard time letting go. We hold on to so many things so long, whether it's things that have happened to us in our past or certain programmings of things that we learned. and we don't let go. And I will, to toot my own horn, only because success does leave clues. I think I'm really good at being the chameleon to life, like adapt or change to your environment of what is now necessary. And when I saw that, because things say invisible to us, like I didn't know that. I wasn't aware. I wasn't waking up every day consciously saying, I have a strong need to be liked. So will you like, it was just like, it just became a part of you, like a fish to water. The moment it became visible, I was like, yeah, that's done. Like, drop that. And so it was easy. And I hope it's easy when people develop an awareness for things that are invisible to them to let that go too. But it is hard for most of us.
Okay, so we're switching for a minute. You love to have fun. I love that about you. I'm like, tell me all the things. What's your Enneagram? What's your sign? Because I love fun too. It's like my North Star.
Yeah.
And first of all, we're going to get to the questions around fun and business, because that can be a challenge.
Yes.
If you don't know how to start incorporating it. But what are the top three most fun things you're doing in your life right now?
Every day I'm playing guitar, and that is the top of the top
fun.
things. I started in May of last year.
Okay.
And I dove headfirst, and I'm loving it. Every moment of it. I'm learning music theory.
Okay.
And I have
that was fast.
I know. And it's like blowing my mind. And so that's really fun. I am playing video games, which I never used to play because I always used to be like, this is a waste of my time and I'm not productive.
So you never played Paperboy?
I did play Paperboy. Hold on. That was like, as a kid, of course, I played Paperboy. But I'm playing Zelda with my 7-year-old nephew, and he FaceTimes me, and he'll put on his phone and we'll play together. And
fun. Yeah.
And that's really fun. And I would say the other third fun thing right now is I'm trying to cheat and do 4 as 3 is
we can do 4.
Okay. My camper van and camping and mountain biking. Those have been my
cool. So where do you want to go this year?
We have been wanting to go to, and I feel like I'm going to miss the season because we can't really travel until summer, and I'm wondering if it's going to get too hot, but we've wanted to go to Moab and a few other places on the way. But I built this whole camper van. It's like a $200,000 camper van. I built it myself. It's got running water and elevated bed on a lift and refrigerator and heaters and air conditioner in it. And I built that during COVID. Most amazing experience of my life. I built a home and a car. And like, we haven't gotten to use it as much as we want. We go locally, but I want to go somewhere, be off the grid.
Oh, fun. We went to Moab, but it was very hot.
That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, it was pretty toasty. So
yeah,
maybe I
know,
because it was gorgeous.
Arizona gets a little hot.
It's just so hot, but this is real nice. And also learned how to play guitar, but stopped for a bit. So maybe maybe I'll pick it back up.
When did you start learning?
I played it for about a year, but I was so slow with it that it frustrated me.
So that's the thing, is what I experienced was that there's certain plateaus or walls that you hit. And once you get past it, it's like it speeds up like a huge stair step. And that's what someone told me. So I just persevered. And then I started experiencing that. You have like this breakthrough with it. And one of the things I do, and I always like to, in my teachings, like share whatever becomes a metaphor for, what I'm teaching is what I'm applying in my life. And that was a huge one with guitar, because so often we're working on our business and we don't see progress. We're doing and we're doing and we're doing. And then we say things like, I have nothing to show for it. That's such a common one. I have nothing to show for it. It's like, no, you can't see yet what there is to show for it. It's like the plant, you put the seed in the soil and it's like, it's germinating, it's doing all these things below the surface, but you can't see it yet. Don't go digging it up. But guitar was something where I could come back the next day and see some progress instantly. And I'm like, that's that feeling that we need to keep intentionally capturing, because the brain does not like the fact that you're changing. It does not like progress, because that takes us out of the familiar safety that we exist in. So you have to force yourself to say, look at how far I'm coming. Look at who I was. Look at where I am now. And guitar was just like a great way to be like, wow, if you just put any effort into anything, you immediately, the brain is just amazing. You just get better.
It was one of, honestly, I talked so much about it on my podcast during it, because it was giving me these crazy epiphanies through the whole thing.
And then people are asking you like, what song are you learning, right? No, yep.
I'm like, I lived in Santa Monica at the time. My neighbors were like right next to me, and I'd play in the backyard. And I'm like, I just remember this. I was learning this song from A Star Is Born. And I just,
that's beautiful.
Neighbors the whole time. It was like, tell me something, boy, bring, bring. And it was that I would sing it and say it over and over again, literally for weeks. And I swear to God, they were probably like,
but you were learning to
that
sing
one more time
while playing?
I was just doing it, singing, because I own 3 karaoke machines. That's all.
Amazing.
That's all you need to know about me.
I love it. Okay, so what I'm really hearing is that we're going to start a band. Is that?
We are. Yes. Okay. You know what? I think I'm better at singing. So if you want to hold guitar,
I got the guitar.
Okay, I'll do that.
Right now, as we speak, we are building a drum stage in my house.
I played drums too for a
really?
short spurt.
This is amazing. And I'm like, I need a drum stage because they need to be elevated for the band.
You need to be floating up like was that Motley Crue? Where they right. Yes, exactly. This is the whole.
This is amazing.
No, these are. If you want to know what my visions look like, you just got a glimpse into all of them.
Yeah.
So I was
so good. Yeah, we're good. We're on the same
all
page.
The things. Yeah. Great. That's why when I saw Fun as Your North Star, I'm like,
it really is.
Let's talk. Okay. So with that, one of the reasons I started playing guitar is I literally needed to. Our brains have so many areas that they want to play in, that they want to experience. I feel like our lives have so many areas. And sometimes as business owners, we can get so put in this box and we can be like, no, I'm having fun. Business is fun, but we forget to go into these other areas or these other parts of our brains. So for you, what would you say to people? Maybe something that you did to, even in seasons of business where you want to be growing, you want to be scaling, you want to be reaching the goals. Is it still important to incorporate fun even during those times? And how did you do it?
Both inside and outside of business, 1000%. I even tell people that business is meant to be fun. If you're not having fun, either you're doing it wrong or you shouldn't be in business, period. There's always going to be things, it's called life, that you have to do that you don't want to do. We got to pay taxes, got to go to the dentist. There's always going to be things you don't want to do. So it's not about 100% of the time, all the time, but by and large, it needs to be fun. And if you're not having fun, something's got to change. But something changed for me. So I'll tell you in a moment what changed, but here's what I would do in the business. I look at who I am. I am a big kid. Like when I say like playing with Legos or playing video games, like I really am a big kid and I love to play. And I tend to get along more with like my friends' kids more than the like parents. I'm like, oh, you got the new Zelda game, right? And like I just want to like have fun and be a kid. And I love that about myself. And I always encourage people to bring in that more playful, like not take things so serious all the time. And then I'll get real serious for a moment. But then I'll get, have more fun again. And I just noticed like, what would I do and what do I do if I had all the time and all the money in the world and I just wanted to do what I wanted to do? And I started to take a note of those things. And I said, how do I incorporate those into my business? And I went to film school because I loved storytelling. I loved making videos. I was doing it as a kid. I was making stop motion claymation videos. I was taking my sister's dolls and my G.I. Joes, and we were making animation videos with that. And I turned her into a superhero. Her name was Plunger Woman in one video. And she ran around with like underwear on her head and a plunger and a cape. And like, that was like what I would do as a little kid. And I was like, well, I want to bring that into my business. And
so is that what you do now?
It's a lot of what I do now. It's what I've always done now, but I hung up the plunger. But we have videos like we have, and I think we're going to talk about like our launches and stuff. We have 7-figure launches where I'm dressed up as Harry Potter and I'm flying a broomstick down my neighborhood. And we spent 2 days figuring out how do we get James to actually fly a broomstick. And we figured it out and we did it. And I told my team, I was like, there was a cup that got filled, call it creativity, call it fun, call it both. That felt so good. And that was a blast. And I would spend 2 days doing that again. And I love that. There's a balance, of course, but we're bringing that into our sales and marketing. We're bringing that into the content and that we deliver and teach. And I love that. And I've had periods where we didn't have as much of that. And I was like, something's missing. And so that's the beauty that we have is like, how do I blend the both? But I think an important message to say, I've gone on a spiritual path myself and grown tremendously. And that's, one reason why I went to Hippy Dippy Sedona, Arizona. And I work with a shaman that's helped me tremendously. And I've grown a lot in other ways. And he said something to me, we took this business to 8 figures a year. And he said something to me about 2 years ago. And he goes, you used to be, your whole world was business. And business is the same for you. But now you have a whole new world beyond that. And I think that's a message I really want to share is that it's so easy for us to make it all business. and that's all that matters and that's all that is. And I've learned to mitigate that where there's not so much importance and significance in business, that this is your life, your one short life. So go fucking live it. And the people in your life and the experiences that you're here to have and the lessons, and it's more than just business. And that's a really hard thing for me to say, because I was this person that was like this obsessive all business. I wasn't like the workaholic, but it was like not the not workaholic, you know? It was like, it was a full day of work of crushing it and whatnot. But to soak up life outside of it has been such a beautiful gift for me. And not allow it to affect the business either is just such a blessing. And I don't want anyone listening to get to a point in their life where they're like, life passed me by, but I have this business. It's like, you can have both.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that it also is huge for, we're going to talk a little bit about launches in a little while, but this is too much for me right now. I have too many questions, but I think it's better for your people who are following you too. There's been times There's been times in our career where I'm like, it kind of feels like our faucet of people is turning off. And I'm like, you know what? We're boring right now. Like, nobody wants this life that we're saying is so great, because we're not painting a great picture. We are stressed out and we look stressed out. We're losing, when we started, we were super healthy, super fit. Like, we're kind of losing that right now. We went through a period where we got really serious as well. And you just think that's what it has to look like. And if you want to grow to this next level, your life you just have to get more serious. And so what ended up happening too is we're boring. Like, we're selling this life. No one's going to want it because it looks like it sucks. Like, hey guys, I'm on Zoom again all day long. Don't you want this? Come follow me. Come take my classes. You can sit on Zoom too. Yeah, like, come get in prison. This is going to be so awesome for you. Like, I can't do it.
And I do think ultimately anyone who's listening and they're the type of person that's like, I love helping people. I want to help more people. How often you think about the people in your life, you give them advice all the time. They don't listen. You give the unsolicited coaching. They don't take it. And so we go, okay, fine. I'll start a business and I'll help people that way. I've still to this day believe and have so many experiences of the biggest impact that you can have in another person's life is by modeling what's possible for them. And they learn through your example that you lead in the world. So they're watching you way more with their eyes than with their ears. And that is something to always keep in the back of our mind of like, what's at stake is like, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to show you how it's done. And people pay attention to that.
That's what I love about just the past, let's say, I don't even know. I feel like it's really been like 3 or 5 years, because there used to be so much for someone like me who likes to have fun, and also for someone who can't. Like, I can't sit at a desk more than 4 hours, and I like my full 8 hours of sleep. I remember thinking when I was listening to people who were like, you only sleep 4 to 5 hours and you work this whole time. I was like, I'm never going to be successful because it doesn't work this way. Yeah. So I love that you really show you can still do this. And actually, for some people, it can be a lot better. So something that I love about you is that you talk about being woo-woo. You talk about being spiritual. You talk about all of those things and how it incorporates to your business. So my question for you is, how much does your spiritual life and your journey play into your business success?
It's all of it, 1,000%. I also learned from my dad about hard work, and he was a workaholic. And it was, money doesn't grow on trees. You work hard, life sucks, and then you die. And so when I said I'm going to start a business, I adopted that programming, and I spent the first 4.5 years. I got addicted to my sister's Adderall. I dropped down to 140 pounds. I said, I will be the hardest working person on the planet with absolute conviction. I was like, I will outwork anyone and everyone, and that is why I'll be successful. And so I'd wake up at 8 or 9 in the morning, pop 20 milligrams, probably wouldn't eat more than one meal. It was like a 6-inch Subway sandwich because I couldn't afford anything more. So $5 footlongs.
Yep.
And
know that well.
And then go to bed at about 2 in the morning. And I do it all again, 7 days a week. I lost all friends. I had to move back in with my mom and dad. And I spent 4 years and didn't make more than $10,000 a year each year that I did that. Mm-hmm. So I tried that. I tried the 3D way. I tried if you just work hard and effort to be successful, you will. And it didn't work. Now, there's a beautiful woman outside of the podcast room that is my girlfriend now. And she was my girlfriend then. We have a 20-year beautiful synchronistic history together. And she comes into my life and she starts introducing me to all this weird shit. I mean, just what the fuck? And I'll give you a specific example of it. So she's a trained psychic, a healer. She comes from a lineage of Native Americans, healers, and just like comes into my life. And I'm just like, I am the most logical 3D person. I'm like, you shut that up. Do not talk about that stuff around me.
Prove it.
Exactly. I wasn't even to prove it. I was just like, nope, it's this not provable.
Nope.
Get out. And then like, okay, prove it. And I'll never forget the first experience I had was I was working in that mode, and it was late at night, and something like my computer crashed or it broke, and I just wasted hours of work. I think I was coding my own web page, HTML and CSS.
Of course you were.
And it broke. And I got so angry and so frustrated because that's all I knew how to be was push and be angry. And she just came, she didn't say a word. And she put her hand on the middle of my back. And I fought so hard to stay angry, but it was like my heart just melted. And I could feel like trying to stay angry, but it just was like melting. And I was like, what is happening here? She's like, it's okay. It's okay. And she started introducing me to this stuff a little bit. And I was very skeptical. So I have a lot of compassion for anyone who isn't, but I also believe that we're here in our own ways to awaken to something greater, of who we are is greater than just what we see in the mirror, and whatever that means for anybody. And so that I started doing that. And she started taking me to, like, I started learning like energy healing and Reiki, and all of a sudden things started changing and things started working for me in my life. And so I did use the objective scientist, where I was like, I tried this and that didn't work, and I'm trying this and it is. And one example of this is, these books like The Secret had come out, because this was about 2009. And people were starting to talk about this law of attraction mumbo jumbo and just close your eyes and manifest. And I hated that. It confronted me so much.
You weren't getting the parking spots you wanted?
I was not getting I was definitely not getting the red Ferrari in the driveway. Tried that one. But here was the game changer for me. And this was the first example that changed everything. So she and I started dating. We fell in love, and her birthday was coming up. And she wanted tickets to the Tony Robbins event, the UPW event. And it was in Long Beach, California. And I said, I'm going to get her tickets. This is going to be her birthday. It's going to be the best birthday gift ever. I go and call the Tony Robbins hotline. Tony didn't answer. Someone else
Dang
did.
it.
Tony, is that you? And I said, how much for 2 tickets? And they said, it's $1,000. I had $500 to my name. So I said, will you take a payment plan? They laughed at me on the phone. And so I go, okay, let me check my finances, see what I can do. Well, what had happened is, I'm sure you've had this happen, where you forget to leave on. I was trying to run Google AdWords, so I had forgot that I'd left them on, and they had just kept going, and it had just withdrawn $500. I had less than $1 in my bank account. So I was at like a rock bottom. I had about 30 something cents in there. I said, I can't even get her a card. I am the most pathetic person on the planet. So that was like a rock bottom. But she'd been sharing all this stuff with me and teaching it. And I'd been kind of rolling my eyes, being the typical guy that's very logical and has to stay masculine and not open to this stuff and be tough and all that stuff. And I had this moment where I realized, if I want this to happen, maybe I don't need to focus on the money. I can just decide that this is going to happen. And because it's for somebody else, I can put my stuff aside and make it about her. She wants to be there. I don't have the money, but that doesn't mean we don't have to be there. And I just got quiet for a moment, and I did this thing in my mind where I just said, I'm going to make this happen. And it was just this moment of what I later realized was you're stepping into your power, and you're stepping into the present. And through your intent, you just decide that this is happening. No doubt, a knowing. Just the same way you say, I'm thirsty, I'm grabbing some water. The same way we do this in micro ways throughout our day. And there's times, when I interview my customers who have had success and stuff, there's a common thing where they all said, I just knew it was going to happen. I just knew. And so that knowing is that power that we have of I am causing this. This is my intent. I will this to happen, and it will. And so I just said, this is going to happen. It's because it's for her. I'm doing this for her. That's the love I have for her. 2 days later, I decided to play tennis with a friend, which I shouldn't have, because I got to get to work. I don't have any money. So I should be working 14 hours a day. But I said, fine, I'll go play tennis with you, because it had been a while. And we start practicing our warm up. And she goes, what have you been up to? And I tell her, well, I'm really trying to start this video service. I'm trying to do videos for clients and stuff like that. And she goes, oh my gosh, we have a new software coming out. Will you make one for us? I said, yeah. And before I could say yes, she said, I'll barter Tony Robbins tickets for you. And I dropped my racket and just like lightning bolt went through my spine. I was like, what did you just say? And she goes, Tony Robbins, I used to work for his organization. I get tickets for free every time he's in the area. And he's going to be in Long Beach in 2 weeks. I'm like, I know. And she goes, make me a video. Do you want to go to Tony Robbins? And I was like, who put you up to this? Ashton, am I being punked? It was just this organic, like, yeah, I'll pay you in Tony. I didn't say, do you have Tony? Like, it was nothing to that. And that was the first time I got it, that like this metaphor that I love of we have what we want and it's beautiful, have desires, have wants, have dreams, but it's the how that's the problem, that we put it all within this tiny circumference of how it's going to be possible. And the only thing I had in my how was gotta make enough money. And I in that moment suspended that's why I say F the how for now, right? Suspended how I thought it needed to happen and really surrendered to something bigger orchestrating in my behalf. And I could have never planned in a million years. Oh, I know. My friend that I haven't seen in 6 months will ask me to play tennis and then offer in exchange for videos. Tony Robbins says that's how it will happen. And so often we're trying to white knuckle the plans of how we're going to get to where we want to go in our life, and realizing that there is some divine intelligence at play that can be guiding certain circumstances and things. And we just kind of a little bit more be along for the ride. I know it's hard for entrepreneurs because we love control. And that was like, okay, I'm in. And we went. We still talk about those 20 years ago. And I was like, all right, I'm in. I don't know anything. I know nothing. And that really started a path for me. And everything I did to deepen that, I just continued to see evidence of it in my life. And I was happier. The frustration, the anger, the impatience went away. Like I was just a happier person, but my life started working more. And it's been everything. And the only reason I started talking about it was because after I took my business to, I think it was 1.2 million a year, with YouTube, I felt like I was being incongruent in a way because I kept saying video is the thing that's going to change your business. And it was all this other stuff I was doing that was actually changing my business. I said, I can't not talk about these things. So when I did, and I released my podcast, the Mind Your Business podcast in 2016, I had all this hate and I had all these 1-star reviews. This guy's gone off the freaking deep end. You can't build businesses with chakras and crystals and all that type of stuff. And I that's where I started to, and that's totally fine. But something else came in, something else took over that. And that was a principle I learned of we have to be willing to let go first if we want to let in. And it's so hard for us to let go. But when we do, I had to let go of something I had created that was working to let in something new that ultimately became 10, 11 times bigger.
So did you walk on fire together?
We did walk on fire.
Is that the best?
That was, what was so great about that for me was it showed me how much fear was still in my life and that you can be afraid. But I got to feel the in the body integrated experience of feeling fear, but still going towards it.
Yes, totally.
And we all will have to face that. And there's a huge conversation about it's unavoidable, especially in life, but in a path of entrepreneurship, that we have to conquer fear on this path.
Yeah, fear has been a huge part of my journey. Like actually one of the biggest parts, fear, anxiety. I used to have panic attacks. Like it was a real thing.
Did you really?
Oh my gosh. I was homeschooled through high school. Like it was the whole.
Because like social.
Partially because of that, but also because of religious purposes. So it took someone who was already isolated and anxious and just like compounded. So my 20s, I was drinking, taking antidepressant pills, like just to go out with friends. I was nervous to speak.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So the fear thing is it's very real, but I'm very familiar with it. So no matter what I do, it still accompanies me. But now I just know it's there and you can still do everything with it.
What level of that do you feel like is because you're really like sensitive and intuitive and you're kind of like picking up a bunch of other people's stuff?
I'm a highly sensitive human.
Yeah.
And I used to think I couldn't handle what I do now because I'm too sensitive to be able to be out in public. I'm too sensitive to write a book. I'm too sensitive to have a podcast. And you just learn how to insulate. And also
you have to learn.
People.
It's a gift. You have to learn how to use the gifts.
Yes.
And that's hard. And when you're like 20, you don't know how to using it. Yeah.
I think that's really important for people to hear. I think especially people who probably listen to my podcast and I think your podcast too, because I think it's people who do have that, who are more sensitive, who are more intuitive, but those people can be scarier because you can feel a wider range of everything.
Yeah. But I was the opposite. I was very dense, just so dense. And it's been an opening up to that. Whereas a lot of people, you know, and like yourself, like you come a little bit more open, and it's like, okay, now I got to learn how to manage this in the right way. And you don't know, no one told you. It's like, oh, by the way, some of you are going to have these like psychic gifts where you can just kind of sense people, and you know, you're not learning that in school. No. That's why we think it's nonsense, because you didn't learn it. Instead, you're like, why am I feeling this way all the time? And then when I'm around all these people, it amplifies and all that. Yeah. There's a lot of people dealing with that.
I'm still weird around people. Like it's so great. I have a friend who knows exactly how I am when I first get around people. And she's like, like people will come over to my house and I will walk away from someone I just met to adjust the lights. So she always says to me, she's like, don't go adjusting the lights. You're mean. Like I do weird things still to this day to try to cope with the initial like feeling of being uncomfortable. Yeah. So it's fun.
But
it's
that's
so
funny
fun
that
observe.
You say that too. Cause like even when you're saying like, oh, I've met so many people that know you, but we haven't really met. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm like, I have a really hard time around a lot of people all the time. And it's nothing about them. It's nothing about anybody. It's hard. It can be really challenging, and it is. And we've become a little bit more hermits in that regard. And the beauties of the internet, we can do it all from home.
Isn't it so great? That's why this is so important for people to hear, is because I really did not think it was possible for me. So if I would have heard people like you talking about it earlier, I didn't find you earlier though. If I would have heard it earlier, I think it would have given me permission and freedom to go and be like, okay, I can do it too. Because I thought everyone was just, who was doing this was super extroverted and loved all the things. I still hear this all the time. Is it possible to do this if you're an introvert? And I say, I'm going to tell you right now, you're not an introvert. You said you geek out about these things. So have you met Alex Palos yet? No.
I'm going to connect you. Okay. You're going to have him on the show, and you are going to thank me so much because this man is a living genius. I read his book. It's a 650-page book. I share the title. It's called Recognizing People, but he took it off of Amazon. He won't sell it anymore because it's too powerful. He developed his own personality typing system that is unbelievable. I bring him to my events. I've had him on my podcast numerous times. He's worked with me, my team, my organization, and he uses facial recognition. Like he can look at you and he can determine your personality type, because a form follows function is the philosophy that how your brain gets developed manifests in the body, how you walk, your gait, how you move, your facial features, all of that, right?
My God, Lindsay Schwartz told me about him. Yep.
So, okay. Yes.
Yes.
So
Okay.
Lindsay knows of him. Yes. Okay, great. So he says there's some things with like the Myers-Briggs, which I really originally prescribed to. I thought I was an INTJ, for anybody who's a geek about that. And the first thing we get on a call, and he warns you, and he goes, you're going to have like an identity crisis when we talk, because the biggest problem is that when people get into the world of personality types, they're in a massive level of self-distortion. But this technology doesn't lie because it's based on your face, not how you feel in the moment. And so I told him I'm INTJ, and he goes, no, not even close.
Really?
He said, you're an ENFJ. The closest thing I can type you is an ENFJ. I'm like, oh, hell no. I am not one of those loud, obnoxious extroverts, right? I'm an introvert. And he asked me one question that shut me up and put me in place. He goes, when you learn something new, are you compelled to share it with others? And I said, yeah. And he goes, introverts don't do that. He goes, people think introvert just means kind of shy, quiet, and reserved. And he goes, no, the words he uses is introgize or extrogize, which is extrogize is I want my energy to go out, even if it's to a small group. And introgize means I don't even know that you're here in the room. Like I'm so in my own world, I don't even know that there's other humans in the room. And he goes, introverts are actually super rare. And he brought to one of my events a real introvert. And he's like, that's a real introvert. And you're like, oh. And so what he said is there's two types of extroverts. There's inhibited and disinhibited. And the inhibited is me and you. We're a little more reserved. We're just like, hold back a little bit. I'm not going to just like be the loudest person in the room or anything like that. Where the disinhibited is the stereotypical extrovert that we hear. So all that to say, when people say, is this possible to build this type of business when you're an introvert, and say, let's put that aside and say, do you have a desire that when you learn and apply something, you want to share it? If the answer is yes, then the answer is yes, you can do that. And introvert, extrovert, all that stuff aside doesn't matter. And I am actually, in my personal life, a very reserved, quiet, person. I don't like the spotlight. I don't want attention. I actually think I've had more success because I don't want attention. I'm not doing this because I want to be the best at something or because I want attention or significance. I actually don't like that. In fact, part of the reason I struggle for so long is I was trying to be the behind the scenes guy to make other people successful. And they kept doing it so badly. I was like, fuck, I'll do this myself then if you can't do this. And it was like a reluctancy. But I think that's beautiful because it's like, if you're doing it from because I'm compelled to, I have to, I need to, I want to help, you're going to go so much further. And it doesn't matter if you're the most loud, popular, funny, entertaining. It's just like, you're just being you.
Hey y'all, I'm so excited to share with you that this podcast, Earn Your Happy, is now a part of the Growth Day Podcast Network. Truly, this is like one of the most exciting things that has ever happened to me. I'm telling you, I no longer feel like I'm doing this alone, and I actually get to collaborate with the people who host the podcast that I'm obsessed with, like that I have been listening to myself, who inspired me to start a podcast, who have taught me about how to go and do the thing, like the original people who got me motivated through listening to their podcasts. You guys, a bunch of us are coming together to bring more growth to the world and to support shows and brands that we believe in. And one of my friends are also on this network, and I'd love for you to go subscribe to their show. You guys, I just had Danielle Canty on of the Boss Babe podcast. She co-hosts it with her other amazing co-host and one of my friends, Natalie Ellis. You guys, you can go check out that podcast on mine. It's episode 925, and Danielle and I talk all about burnout and how that could be showing up in your life, and most importantly, how to prevent it. But I want to tell you, if you have not gone and checked out the Boss Babe podcast yet, go subscribe, because it is one of the largest online communities for ambitious women and female entrepreneurs. And I know that if you're listening to the show, chances are that's probably you. You guys, they have 3.6 million followers and 380,000 subscribers. The Boss Babe podcast is the place where they share real behind the scenes of building successful businesses, achieving peak performance, and learning how to balance it all. Most of all, you guys, truly, these women are in my life. Danielle and Natalie are people that I text on a weekly, monthly basis when I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel stuck. What should I do? I tune into their podcast, you guys, to learn. Even though they're my friends, I am still like crazy obsessed with this podcast because I learn something new every single time I listen. It makes me be a better podcaster. It makes me be a better businesswoman. It just makes me be better and more confident out in the world because they're so real and raw. And I can tell you that in the moments where I have had horrible days, down days, I've either gone and listened to this podcast or I've texted them, because these are the people who truly get it. You want to listen to the people who are walking in the same footsteps that you are. You guys, go check out the Boss Babe podcast. You're not going to be sorry. And it's just going to like make you way smarter, and you're going to have way more fun. So go check it out. Hey y'all, if you didn't know, Earn Your Happy is now a part of the Growth Day Podcast Network. This is so exciting to me because I have been looking for a really good home for the show for, I can't even tell you, years, literally. And now I've finally been able to come together and collaborate with other people who have incredible shows, and I want to share them with you. One of the shows is Motivation with Brendon Burchard. And you guys, if you don't know about the beginning of my career, I literally started with Brendon Burchard's work. It's how I launched one of my very first online courses and membership sites, was because he gives so much advice that you can integrate and implement immediately. And that's what you're going to get on the show. Not just motivation, but you're going to learn exactly how to get your stuff out in the world. And not just that, but Brendon runs in the most incredible group of humans who are really doing the thing out in the world that you want to be doing. So go check it out. Go subscribe to Motivation with Brendon Burchard. I promise you, this is going to be one of those shows that no matter when you tune in, you're going to get value. Like, it's not one of those that you're like, God, I listened for 30 minutes and I didn't get what I wanted. Like, from the beginning, you're going to get something that changes your life or changes your business. So go check it out. Motivation with Brendon Burchard. I know you're going to love it. I'm obsessed. Okay, I love this. So I kind of want to take this spiritual part of it. I want to take what you just talked about. And yes, we're going to talk about 7-figure launches, but I want to talk about it from...
Fine, we'll get to that eventually someday.
I looked at the clock. I'm like, I did promise them, didn't I?
Part 2.
I want to talk about... Exactly. I want to talk about it from the standpoint of who do you have to start to be and how do you have to even start to think in order to even start to have that as a goal in your life. Let's say you're in a business right now. I think there's a lot of people in that range of maybe there's 50K to 6 figures right now. And then I think that there's like multiple kind of like, just like with guitar, there's multiple walls you kind of have to get over.
Yep.
So can you tell me just a little bit about that path, maybe mindset, spiritually? Where do you need to be in order to start thinking about a 7-figure launch?
What must have already happened at this point is the same type of things that I said I let go of, which is any of the need to look good, to be liked, to have any importance on any opinion of anybody has to be gone at this point. Okay. That has to be gone. And what also has to be there is, hopefully this is in place here at this point, but massive level of ownership in your expertise. You got to own it. Like, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Not from an ego place, but just like, you just have to own it. You don't talk with a level of, and if you don't, like people say, what if I don't? It's like, then go freaking do that. Like, what if I don't have enough testimonials, results? Then go get them. Like, go do that. And then it's like, how many clients that you got results for do you need before you like, okay, I know what I'm talking about. So go do that and then show that you own it, because there's a lot of laws and principles in business and marketing. You violate them just like you violate law of gravity or law of attraction, then it's not going to end well for you. So there's a law called the law of preeminence or law of authority, which is a fact. This is universal. People don't buy content, information, and coaching from people they don't already perceive as an authority. There is no way around it. Trust me, I tried. I created a dumb business called Reality Mastermind. You can Google this. It still exists, which is when I was starting. This is in 2008. I said, you're going to watch me as I learn how to build a business and pay me. No one bought. I don't know why no one bought. Because I wasn't an authority. Why would I pay you to watch you learn? You don't know anything. People want to buy from the best. They want to buy from the expert, the person who knows what they're talking about. And so if you're not locked in your power of owning your expertise, and by the way, being an expert and authority is not the same as being the best. That's a fool's errand. I never focus on that. I just focus on, do I know what I'm talking about? Is what I'm talking about helping people? Will it help people? Yes, great. That's all that matters. Period. And it's not about being the best. Okay. It's just about, do I help people? Is this helping? And do I care what other people think or what they'll say or what they'll do? If you've worked through those, you're already going to be powerful in terms of your own being. The next thing that's going to have to happen, I would say at that level, if you really have those, gosh, it kind of comes a few things. There's probably some control you're going to have to give up. The control that we have within the business, I need to be a part of everything, because usually there's a lot of moving parts in a 7-figure launch. So if it's all you all the time doing all the things, it's going to be the most stressful experience. So you'll need some people with you, helping you. And so that requires you to let go and have trust in them and be now more of a leader. So being a leader is a whole nother conversation. Entrepreneurs are really bad at it. And that's one of the reasons why they get stuck. That's why they have awful experiences when they start hiring teams, because great entrepreneurs make the worst leaders. And I can prove it to you, because the qualities that people say are the best traits in what made someone successful: quick starter, fast action taker, ability to adapt and change. Teams hate that stuff. They hate that. And so you're making last minute decisions and changes and want all the credit and hold on to all of it and still lean a team. Your team's going to hate you for that. And so I had to change a lot of that along the way. And then I'll just throw in the only other thing, and it's kind of like the bridge between the internal to the external, is there's a level of commitment, consistency, discipline, and stubbornness. When I did the beta of the launch that became a multiple 7-figure launch, it's 25 people paying $500. That's how it started. Okay. And then I relaunched it and it did 200,000 in sales, but that was with an already huge audience. It was way below my expectations. This is where people say, oh, it failed, or I suck, or I'm a loser. And they go into their meanings and their interpretations. So I'm a lot better today about not getting into those stories. And what does it mean? They don't love me. That's why they didn't buy. And we internalize and we personalize so much of this stuff. And instead I said, I got to figure this out and I got to relaunch it and I got to do it again. And there's a slide I share at my events, and it's the graph of time over sales with this one product. And obviously it's a hockey stick. So it's like low, 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 and then it just shoots up. But it didn't shoot up for like the 8th or 9th time and I did it. And that's because every single time that in the trench experience gave me data points, it gave me feedback, it gave me experience, it gave me insight. How do I make this better? How do I improve this? And I just obsessed over it. And when I tell people how much I obsessed over just the messaging and the offer itself, it's like, I would never do that. It's like, yeah, and you'd never have $6 million launches. But I spent 7 months obsessing over the language, the copy, the scripting of our original video series, which is like me with the Harry Potter broomstick and all that type of stuff. Months and months to unlock this. Like, how do I make this unique? How do I make this different? How do I make this blow people's minds and help them in a way they didn't even know they needed help? And I would look over every word, every distinction, every tool of creating frameworks and new terminology and better way. I mean, there's got to be a better way I can teach this. And then a lot of what I do is there's this whole concept. I call it the guardian of the mind. People are experiencing this right now as they listen, where it's that little voice in your head says, do I agree with that? Does that make sense? I've heard something different. That's not true. Disagree. False. Fake news. And that little guardian in your mind is rejecting new and different information from someone who has what you want that you've been trying but not getting yourself. And you keep saying, no, it conflicts with my model of the world, so it must be false. Reject, reject, reject. And I got really good. This would be another episode for another time, but I got really good at how to get past people's guardian of their minds. And it's a hard process because people, I mean, like I said before, like you can be teaching someone and they listen much more with their eyes than their ears. So you give them 10 things and it comes in one ear and out the other. And it's because on a level we're deleting or distorting it. And so when you can bypass that and actually have a new conflicting, it's like this conflicts and threatens my existing world, but they sit with it and then say, but I see how this makes sense.
You literally have to give me one. You have to give me one little thing that we can kick past the guardian.
Okay. I'll give an example of things that I say, and then I'll give you an example of what I do to get past it. And I wrote a PDF. I'd love if you want to give it to your people, no opt-in or anything. But I wrote a book.
I want this PDF, so yes.
And it's called Hardwired for Entrepreneurship. And what it does is the book is sharing with you my argument that the successful entrepreneurs are successful because they think differently. And so every example is an example of how they think differently and see the world. It's how you see business determines what's possible. So this is where we're going to start. This is going to lay the foundation. How you see anything determines what's possible. The beautiful thing is change the way you see things, and the things you see change. So if you see selling as sleazy or slimy or yucky or bad, how you see selling, first of all, that isn't what selling is. That's how it occurs to you, will determine your actions, your behaviors, and choices. So how you see something determines what's possible. So everything that I'm doing is always in my coaching and in my teaching is always designed to do one thing: change the way they see something. And when you change the way it occurs to you differently, and you occur differently through the experience of it. So we could have an entire conversation of how to get selling to occur differently to somebody. So if right now I go, I know what you're thinking. You might be sitting there going, selling is sleazy. The first thing I do is I acknowledge it. Selling feels sleazy. You know why it feels sleazy? Because we've all had an experience of being sold to and it felt sleazy. But I'd like you to consider that you've also had experiences where you enjoyed the selling process. We've all waited in line for some exciting product like an iPhone overnight, and we didn't say that was sleazy. So was it that selling is sleazy, or that they're just sleazy people that use a tool called selling the wrong way? And when I look back at my career and I look at the testimonials and the feedback, the results from my clients, the key word is clients, 99%, this is true, 99% of any result or testimonial or case study came from my paying customers. Not the freebie seekers, not the people that got the free report, not the people that attended the webinar and kicked off as soon as the pitch came, but from the paying customers. Why is that? I'm going to tell you why that is. It's a couple things, but the first thing is something magical happens. The moment you say, I'm going to help you finally solve this problem, and here's how much it's going to cost. People are so obsessed with money and have put so much unfortunate importance on it. And I'm sure you've heard this quote. I love this, that it's the people that don't have money that tend to put the importance on it, which is why people that have a lot of money have the money that they have, because they don't put that importance on it. But all of a sudden, Lori's going to tell me, she's inviting me to make a change and solve a problem in my life, but there's a paywall. So what does that force me to do? It forced me to think about, do I want this? Am I going to do this? Do I have what it takes? How ready am I? How willing am I? And we have to stew in that. And when I end up paying you, that is an action in the body that is followed up by the being saying, yes, I'm ready to change. And that's why I say the transformation always begins with the transaction. When people don't pay, they don't pay attention, and we don't value free. So when you start to understand that if you just gave everything away for free and didn't sell, you are doing the most massive disservice in the world, because you're trying to skip over this beautiful come to Jesus moment where I have to look at everything and say, am I willing to do this? Am I ready to do this? Am I capable to do this? Yes, I am. And you want to rob people of that because you're worried about looking slimy, and then you wonder why your business isn't growing? Well, there you go, right? And so that's me doing that. I'm working with you, and I'll take the time that it takes to change your perspective so that we leave this conversation not seeing selling as something slimy or sleazy, but as a service, as an environment, as a gateway to transform someone's life. And until you're there, you ain't going to make any money. So you can continue to have your perspective. And I honor that and respect that. But what I don't respect is you thinking you can continue to have that perspective, but then make a ton of money in business or help a lot of people. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So that was me doing that in action. Someone would have to go rewind and listen to see what I was doing. But I'll tell you, my big thing is everything I love to do is I love logic. And all of that was logic. And people keep saying, you got to sell with emotion. Emotion is selling. I say, I disagree completely. I think it is logic evokes emotion. And when you say something that just makes sense, people go, oh, that just clicks something into place, and wow. And so people, unfortunately, when they try to sell or sell anything in any way, whether it's themselves or free stuff or their paid stuff, they just start talking about emotion words. Are you frustrated and sad and depressed and you hate your life? Well, I'm going to help you. And oh my gosh, here's my money, right? But when I start to put logic to it, like, doesn't it make sense? I mean, that was a very logical observation that I made. I said, I look back at my career, and 99% of anybody that's given me any type of result of, I learned from you and you helped me, was a paying customer. That's just a fact. That's called logic. And I don't get those from people that don't pay. And that's because they're skipping that step where they say, I'm in and I put skin in the game. So that's how I'm doing that. I hope that answered that. It was more of like a demonstration of it.
I loved that, because that's really, we can apply that too. And also, as you were talking, I could literally go back to every single time that I've had a transaction breakthrough in my life.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of the things that I'm like, oh yeah, that was a really big breakthrough. And yes, I've had them with books and podcasts, but when I've really, truly broken through and done the thing, it's because I put the money down, went to the thing, maybe set a date, like really fully showed up and made a commitment.
Yes. And it's not to say that we don't get value from other things that are free. It's that there's certain problems that have become big problems in our lives they're perpetual problems. It's just, I can't go away. And it's been 2 years of this, and it's big and it's heavy, and I've tried everything. And those are the ones where it's like, yeah, because there's something probably we've been unwilling to let go of and try differently. And if you're just hopping around, you may not get what you're looking for that way. But when you do get into a world where you're like, I've learned how to self-coach myself. And so you kind of like, you let that guardian of the mind take a lunch break, and you can receive and learn and grow faster once you kind of learn how to do that. yourself, and then anything becomes a lesson.
Oh, I'm just having these moments of like, I feel whatever you want to call it, but it's like the universe, God, whatever. It's like uses cash as a buy-in to see if you're committed. It's really interesting. It's like,
well, it's just this thing that we've decided to put value on.
That's the commitment thing that we use and have always used. Yeah.
There is a spiritual principle. It's a sacred law called Aini. It's the sacred law of reciprocity. And this, to me, I will say a disclaimer, I don't know this fully and I don't practice this fully because it goes much more vast than my human brain understanding. But if you started to practice this and put this in place, anybody listening is going to transform your life. And the first place you can go is you can look to nature in this. There is a harmony in nature. And there's a harmony with us when we're interacting with nature. And that is Aini, the reciprocity. There is a balancing of the scales. There is an equal exchanges of energy. And a lot of us are in survival mode. That's fine. Where when you're in survival mode, it's about receive, get, obtain, conquer, hoard, right? So when you do that from that energy, it's all in, and nothing out. So you think you're fixing your solutions or saving your life or whatever, but you're actually violating a massive spiritual underpinning that will hurt you more in the long run. And when you begin to look at it as money is just the way that we get to exchange energy. You're going to pay me and I'm going to offer, that's your energy to me. And in exchange, I'm going to offer something. It's just how we exchange our energies. But if it's just all me, no you, and all me in every area with my friends, my family, my relationships with my clients, you will watch your life work less and less and less. But if you become the steward of this balance and you start to look for ways in which it is out of balance, and it goes both ways, Lori, because there are people in your life that take more from you and you keep giving to them and they keep taking. But that's on us as well. That's on us to put up a boundary and say, I understand you're in a hard time. You keep asking for money or whatever. This is not a real example, folks. I'm just making up a made up one. That's not really Lori, but I can't offer you any more until this has to stop. I have to put up a boundary here. So this goes both ways. Are we allowing people in our lives to take more and tip the scales? That will still affect you because you're violating that reciprocity. And it's both ways. So I'm always looking to balance it. Like you bringing me on your show. Well, there's a reciprocity to it. It's like, hey, I got content. Hopefully it's okay. But it's a value to me, right? I get to be introduced to new people. And I could sit there and say, that was your idea. This was you reaching out to me. I'm so grateful. I want to make sure I return that energy. I want to make sure I am reciprocal with that. I don't want to just be like, yeah, who else can I get to put a spotlight on me? And that's what a lot of people are doing. You balance that in every area in your life, it amplifies. Guaranteed. Try that for 30 days and prove me wrong. And that's how I try to look at it. And selling is just the exchange of energies.
But I think so many people think of 7-figure launches. They want it. They see it. But a lot of people aren't even close to being there yet to even start thinking about it.
There's just a question to ask is like, figure out how many people that is. Okay. And let's say it's 2,000 people or something. Okay, are you ready for 2,000 people right now? In every way, not just like mentally, emotionally, but that is how to hold a container and a space for people is a muscle to develop. And then also the infrastructure. Do you have a customer support rep so that if 14 people in 1 hour reach out, do you have that in place or is it still you? So a lot of people haven't created the container that sets that up. So I have a really weird metaphor, if you don't mind me sharing really quickly. It's a pot metaphor, but it's not like the pot that your listeners are thinking. It's a planted pot metaphor. And it's how I looked at growing my business. And I hope it helps. So you put a plant in the pot, maybe in the backyard, because I know you guys are putting some plants in there. I forgot. Chris told me what it was. The lime trees. You guys put the little lime trees. We're going to get real specific and relatable here.
Little
right?
lime trees.
We're putting a little lime tree in the pot. And it's really interesting because the pot becomes the home, the container that holds the lime tree. Without the container, we would have no soil, no root system, and the water and the fertilizer, right? So it homes the container of the tree. If the pot just broke, the plant would probably start to die. But at a certain point, the very thing that becomes the container that holds the plant, the lime tree in this example, becomes the very thing that constricts its growth. Because at one point or another, the root system hits the edge of the pot and it's growing too much for the size of the pot, and it stunts its growth. And a lot of us, this is where we are. We want to go further, faster, bigger, and we're still in our little damn teeny tiny pot. And so what people do is they have it backwards, conditional. And they say, well, once I get a bigger lime tree, I'll get a bigger pot. But you've already reached the edge of the pot. The secret to growing the lime tree at this point is we need a bigger pot first. Restaurants know this. They know that if they want to grow their business, they get a bigger space with more tables and more people come. It's this law of vacuum. The universe has to fill the empty space. So create a bigger space and it will come. If you want a $1 million launch and that requires 2,000 people, have you already created the space to serve 2,000 people? And they will come. But other people, everyone else is just like reactive. Like, well, I'll do all that once I get that. And it's like, you need to tell yourself, the universe, whatever, I'm ready for it and here it is. So hopefully that my pot metaphor made sense.
Oh my God, I loved it. I was just thinking about even with events that I've done, I've been like, okay, well, I'm going to book the room of the number of the people that I want. And guess what I do? I show up and I fill it to that number.
Exactly
to that exact number.
About. Yes.
And if I went smaller, I would think that it was, it would have felt like a stretch to get to that number. So whenever we thought about it in terms of events, I'm like, well, we're going to fill whatever we choose because our actions are going to work backwards from that.
Entrepreneurs are very future oriented and they work backwards from, and the universe does not like a void that fills it. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have any space, there's nothing to fill.
Oh, it's the call your shot thing. It really is.
It is.
So last question, what are you personally working on right now? Something that you want to be better at that you're really focusing on?
It's always multiple things, I think. I mean, I mentioned the guitar, so I don't want to mention that again. But that has been my biggest discipline right now is like learning music theory. Kind of blew my mind. And that broke me through that next plateau is I stopped trying to memorize songs and chords and stuff and tabs. And I started learning music theory and the science behind all of that. That's a big thing. The spiritual path that I'm on is a really intense, hard one. I just got out of a 2.5-year divorce that was hands down the hardest thing I've ever gone through in my life. There's no question about it. It was really hard. All through, like, my dad was dying at the same time. And then like so much change in my life and my business. And one of the things that my mentor said is he said, what a pity. Most people only face one battle their whole life. And what a pity. And when we choose a path of entrepreneurship, it's the same thing like when we chose an AP class in high school. It's like, you're going to learn the same thing, but I'm going to learn it faster and it's going to be a little harder, but I'm here for it. And I think that's what we're doing when we're choosing these paths, like getting married or having a family and starting a business. It's just like an accelerated learning class. And every day is a new lesson. I've had to learn how to conquer fear. You know, when you're faced with all of that, it's really scary. I've had to learn about what love is and unconditional love. And there's a funny joke that no one wants to mention with entrepreneurs and relationships. There's a lot of them that are divorced. And one of the things that I think is so cosmically funny about that is because in this life, to make a relationship work, you have to depend on another human being. And in our businesses as entrepreneurs, we get to say, I'm doing it myself. If it must be done right, it must be, it's up to me, it must be, or when all that type of stuff. And no one's going to do it. And so we have all this control and this, I can do it. And I was a very lone wolf solo person growing up. So that's been a lot of my own growth. So like let go and trust others. And wow, to do that in a relationship is hard for so many of us. And there is no way that one person alone can make a relationship great. It's impossible. It takes two. And that's the beauty of it. That's the wow, humbling thing. It's like you can be all you or none you, but it's going to require both. To go through all of that and to like learn so many lessons and come out the other end and like be so proud of myself for how much growth I've had, because a lot of these things take us down and we take our business down with it. And that was decisions back to that intent. I was like, I'm going to keep living my life and I'm going to make all of this a blessing, not a curse. So I think I'm always just working on myself in any way and hopefully becoming a better person. So that path and that I'm on is a discipline, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, but it's been a lot of growth with that. Mm-hmm. And then I play guitar.
Mm-hmm. And then guitar as well. And that helps. That helps with all of those other things.
Gosh, it really is like so fun. And my sister just started playing too because she was watching my videos on Instagram. She's like, I'm going to do it.
That's how it happens. Yeah.
Yeah. So
damn Instagram. We're going to play all the instruments.
Damn Instagram. I know.
I can play the tambourine really well.
Oh yeah. I believe it.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yep. Give me a beat.
Harmonica,
right on
tambourine. Let's go. Yeah.
Maybe not harmonica, but tambourine.
There we go.
One beat. All right. I'm so grateful for you. This was so much fun. That was my intention. It's like, I just want to have fun. I want to get to know them and I want to have fun.
Yeah,
so thank you so much.
It should be fun.
For anybody who loved this, I know they want to go listen to your podcast. So where can we listen to your podcast?
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah, my podcast is the Mind Your Business podcast. I just searched it recently and there's like 15 Mind Your Business podcasts now. That's a lot, but mine has my face on it and it says James Wedmore. I don't let things like that bother me.
No, they'll find you.
Yeah. So we just came out with our 600th episode. I think it's Jump In Anywhere. I talk about all kinds of things. We have fun over there too. So
yeah, that's how you're on this podcast. I ended up listening to a bunch of your podcasts and I was like, I like this guy. He is making me laugh out loud on this walk. So we're gonna.
That's good. I appreciate that.
Right over there.
That's the goal. If I can get a laugh out of somebody on my show, that makes me.
I like that you laugh. I like that you can laugh at yourself too.
I do a lot of impressions. I'm really good at.
This is great.
I don't think I'm good at them, but I do a lot of.
But he just does them. Everyone.
I just do them.
That's like me with singing. I don't know if I'm good, but I'm gonna do it for you. So you're gonna enjoy it.
I am not good at singing, so that will not happen on my show ever.
I mean, you should try it.
Yeah. I care enough about my listeners and their ears.
Still got to do it. Okay. Okay. But as far as your masterminds and your courses as well, because truly everybody listening, I want you to know that this is the person whose name comes up in the room with experts all the time.
That's
as
crazy.
The person to go to take the courses, to model after. So where can we find all that?
Oh gosh, it's all hidden. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, that's the best part. No one can find you.
We do a mastermind. I mean, I have a website. I think jameswedmore.com is the website,
and that has all your classes.
It has pretty much all the things. I do a mastermind. It's once a year. It's for people like already at the 7-figure level. It's like a crazy intense application process, and we do that like November, December. But there is like a link to raise your hand on there if you're interested, and then once a year, and it's June every year, I open the doors to my signature program, which is basically like, it's just where I put everything that I teach. It's all our processes and our training and whatnot. That's Business by Design. And businessbydesign.net is like the wait list for that. But you can't buy that right now. It's not available. But thanks for asking. Yeah. I mean, that's really nice of you.
Well, wait lists are awesome. We're good with those.
Well, we have a wait list process inside the program. We teach people how to create that and build momentum for their first launch. So I practice what we preach and we do everything. There's a reason why we do everything, we teach you how to do it. So yeah, 7-figure launches.
Yep. Wasn't that great?
Do it.
Wasn't this the deepest you've ever gone about a 7-figure launch?
Yeah, it's hilarious. It was like, we're going to talk all about 7-figure launches. It's like, yeah, just do it,
Do you know now why I'm like, you're like, what do you want to talk about? I'm like, I don't know. We're just going to go.
Because you don't want to make promises that you don't fulfill on.
Exactly.
Yeah, 7-figure launches. What's your biggest secret? Just do one, I guess.
I wanted freedom to be like, what? Where are we going with this? Okay. So I'm so grateful. And you guys, if you want to let him know what your biggest takeaway was, I think it's always so nice to see who was listening. Go follow him. Go look at all his stuff. Go get on his wait list. Get on the wait list and play guitar while you're at it.
Show me a song you want me to learn. Because every week I post on my Instagram stories the new song I'm trying to learn.
Eagles, Hotel California.
No, that's like 3 guitars at once. I've looked into it.
I started to play it too, and I could only get like the very beginning.
Yeah, maybe the solo. I'd play one of the solos that I'm willing to learn. But.
Okay. All right. Well, he won't actually play what you want him to play, so it's fine.
I'll have my reason. I'll have my excuses.
All right. So until next time, everyone, earn your happy. Hey all, I'm so excited to share with you, Earn Your Happy is now part of Growth Day Podcast Network. A bunch of us are coming together to bring more growth to the world and support shows and brands that we truly believe in. And one of my friends is also on the network, and I'd love for you to go subscribe to his show. You guys, Trent Shelton has the most incredible podcast. It's called Straight Up with Trent Shelton, and it's going to remind you that you are built for this. I have heard Trent speak in person multiple times. I've listened to his podcast a ton. He's coming on the show, and I literally cannot wait because this man just spits straight fire. It is like truth that goes to your core and makes you take action right away. If you want one of those podcasts that when you're just out on a walk, you can't help but want to start running and run through a wall in your life, this is the show to go listen to. So you guys, make sure that you go subscribe to the show, Straight Up with Trent Shelton. You're going to love it. Hey, do you know what the big secret is this year? And it shouldn't be a secret because this should be your biggest focus. It is building your community. I am always working on building and nurturing my community, and everyone is talking about the power of community. Without an online community, you just cannot grow organically or create a real movement, which is what I know that we're all after. And you can build trust or monetize your audience. When you get community right, not only does your audience grow faster, but so do your sales. But where's everybody going to be managing their communities these days? And a lot of online entrepreneurs and thought leaders are turning to Circle.so. Circle is an all-in-one community platform. It lets you host content and create discussions, live streams, group chats, and memberships all under your own brand. And what's so cool about Circle.so is that you don't even need a website or Facebook group. Instead, Circle lets you build your own community site where you can host content and manage your members. You can even create locked and unlocked content spaces, groups, and classes. How freaking cool is that? You can put your content behind a paywall too, and you can charge different amounts of money for different spaces on your community site. Circle.so is famously easy to use, and it has a free 14-day trial for you, so you can go check it out, see if you like it, see if you love all the options. Just go to Circle.so. Go check it out right now, you guys. Imagine being able to manage your community, start group chats and live classes, and accept payments all in one place. Kind of mind-blowing since this is usually spread all over the place. You have to log into so many different things. If this is the year to capture, organize, and monetize your community, head over to Circle.so. You can get a free trial and start building your online community right now. Just go to Circle.so. You guys, you get the 14-day free trial. So just go and see if it's for you. It's going to streamline everything and make your life so much easier. It's so freaking cool.